So Fernando, this all sounds awesome, right? Like I'm sold on this investment. Besides overpaying on the front end, what are some ways that this goes wrong? Like, what are some risks? Like, how does the deal not work?
Yeah. So, downsides of storage, there's a few, and I could tell you ways to mitigate them. So the first is, as you talked about buying right, there's compressed cap rates across the entire industry. All of a sudden, this is now a attractive alternative asset. It's a very competitive acquisition environment, and real estate brokers are stripping a lot of the upside out of these deals. So, the solution to that is, as opposed to going retail, go off market, and as opposed to buying stabilized facilities, buy value add facilities. The second piece is oversaturation. Storage is an interesting asset because it's hyper localized. Typically, your trade area is only 1 to 5 mile radius around your site, depending on how dense the population is. So if I'm building something in River North, 80 to 90% of my tenants are going to come from a 1 mile radius. If I'm building something in Mokina, my typical trade radius is like 5 miles. So when you're going to buy one of these things, you have to do a very good competitive analysis. Make sure that your supply index number is low enough to compensate for the amount of new storage you're bringing online. And one of the issues with this is you have these larger operators now that are now attracted to this, right? Bill Gates got in, Warren Buffett got in, Blackstone's been operating in the background for a long time. You have these big REITs. And because these guys operate on a longer time horizon, they are willing to just kind of grab land and develop on it to kind of stake a flag in the market, knowing that the market will grow to encompass that oversaturation. The second piece is that it has cheap construction costs. I know construction costs across the board are super high, but self-storage compared to multifamily is totally different world. For me to build a multifamily property, I'm looking at $300 a foot. For me to build a Class A $10 million self-storage facility, I'm at like $100 a foot. So a third the cost. So because of that, the solution to this is the importance of not only underwriting a location and doing a competition study, but then, honestly trying to avoid rosy colored glasses and making sure that you're paying a third party consultant to do a full-fledged feasibility study on the project for you, especially if you're raising capital from investors like we do, or you're getting bank debt. They're going to want to see that you've done your due diligence. And then the last piece is, again, the REIT competition. These REITs, the way their tax structures work is extremely favorable for self-storage. And because of that, they have virtually unlimited capital needing deployment, especially after COVID. A lot of acquisitions and development halted for anywhere between 8 to 12 months. And they have so much cash on their books that, like, on a monthly basis, they're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars to inflation. So they're willing to buy deals at just above inflation, maybe 50 or 100 basis points above their capital costs, just to get the money on the street. And again, they have those longer investment timelines. So the solution to combating the REIT competition is to avoid primary markets and focus more on secondary or tertiary markets. Like, I would never build in downtown Chicago, but I'm building one in Mokina. I own one in Yorkville. I'll go to other states that are extremely secondary or tertiary markets. Like, I have one by U of I down in Danville. I have some in North Carolina and Tennessee in kind of smaller rural communities. Those are kind of the biggest external factors that you need to account for. As far as internal factors, the number one reason I've seen self-storage facilities not perform well, or, I almost don't want to say fail because it's very difficult for them to fail. Typically it's lack of oversight. So if you're a facility that takes cash, that breeds and that incentivizes managers to steal, right? It's just too easy. You always, you want to trust everyone, but you always have to look at what incentivizes them. Because in the end of the day, when things get tough or people start struggling, they're always going to go towards their incentives versus the altruistic reason why they're trying, they're or you think they're working for you. So making sure they have very good oversight on your managers, or do what we do and basically just automate facilities completely so that there's no manager on site at all. No one deals with cash. Most of our sites, we don't accept cash or even checks. Everything has to go automatic debit or credit if you want to rent from us.